Buenas amigos de Ready para Exportar y de Metrópolis. Hoy vamos a hablar de cine y vamos a hablar de cine internacional y de oportunidades que hay para las empresas del Caribe, incluidas las empresas de la República Dominicana. We are here with Ms. Frances Ann Solomon from Caribbean Tale. Welcome. We are broadcasting from the Dominican Republic. We want to know a little bit more about Caribbean Tale and the work that you have been doing on behalf of Caribbean, especially Caribbean filmmakers, including Dominican Republic.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much. Caribbean Tale started in 2000. It was a dream I had. My background was I was a producer in drama at the BBC in England. And after leaving the BBC, I wanted to create an organization for the Caribbean that would do what the BBC did. Of course, I'm not the BBC. I didn't have any money, but I wanted to have an organization that would be a pipeline of production, marketing, distribution for Caribbean film. So in 2006, we started our film festival, which is Caribbean Tales International Film Festival. In 2010, we started our incubator program, which was the Creators of Color Incubator Program. We started that in order to bring filmmakers to Canada to have an opportunity to have access to the international marketplace, basically. And that's been running now for 12 years. Apart from that, 2013, we started Caribbean Tales VOD, Caribbean Tales TV, our video on demand service, as well as our distribution company, and so on. So at this point, the company is multifaceted. And 5 years ago, we also started Cinefam to support women of color creators. And we now also have a festival in England, which is the Windrush Caribbean Film Festival in the UK. So that's the scope of what we're doing. Yeah, we create, produce, market, and sell, because we also have a production arm.
Tell us a little bit more about the incubators and what motivated you to start it, and what are the key issues that you think, how do you help filmmakers in the region?
The key reason why I started it was because working with with Keith Nurse in Barbados, and with a number of other key business people in the industry, it was clear that what was needed wasn't just to show films that got made, but also to look at the economy of filmmaking in the Caribbean, and really to examine how we could create a Caribbean-wide film industry, what kind of incentives and what kind of things needed to be put in place. And one of them obviously is that filmmakers understand the international marketplace. They understand the drivers of production, not just locally, but also globally. They understand how to package and market content, and how to build relationships with partners across the region as well as across the world. So that was the very ambitious goal of the incubator program. And over the years, we have serviced we have had around 200 filmmakers come through the incubator from all parts of the Caribbean, the English-speaking, Spanish, French-speaking Caribbean, as well as from Africa, Europe, America, and of course, Canada. Yeah.
With your wide experience in the Caribbean, what do you think are the main things that are missing in the region for the region to really develop their film industry?
I think the biggest problem is that these are small islands divided by water, separated states, that are governed individually. And so there is no concerted Caribbean-wide strategy that's being implemented around the development of the audiovisual industries. No one island can really sustain an industry because they're too small. They don't have the audience base to be able to monetize a film, for example, in the cinemas, or fund an industry. And so the only way that we can really think about it is region wide. And regionally, the region is too divided. A lot of the region's talent lives outside the region, and then the governments are not incentivized, are not committed to the development of the audiovisual industries in their countries. I think some of the islands have individual, incentives and production funds and a vision of what film and television can be as an economic driver for the economy, but not many of them do. And then because the governments change quickly and often, then things that are put in place by one government get erased by another government, and so it's really a difficult situation. A lot of the islands have other priorities, poverty, economies that demand a lot of agriculture is the environment. They have real problems, and they don't see the audiovisual industries as one of their priorities. So you have countries like, for example, Cuba, where it is a priority, has been over the years a priority in Cuba to develop the audio. So you have these amazing filmmakers and artists coming out of Cuba, but that is not the norm, in the islands. The arts generally are very undervalued. There's no concerted governmental strategy that's being implemented, year over year through difference. That is really the problem. And so the fractured nature of the region, coupled with the lack of commitment of governments, for whatever reason, for good reasons and for not so good reasons, means that it has been almost impossible to develop a regional industry. And that really is what's necessary. Like, as I said, it's not really viable for islands to sustain industries on their own.
One of the issues here in the Dominican Republic, where the industry has been growing steadily over the years, one of the issues, the internationalization of the film industry has been limited. And one of the reasons is because the country is not producing enough content that appeal to a wider audience. Since you have a distribution company, what are the challenges for Caribbean creators? Is there something that they need to do in order to have a wider distribution of that content?
Well, I can speak more to the English-speaking Caribbean, but I think the problem there is that the content, there's no domestic industry in the English-speaking Caribbean, and therefore there's no system whereby the filmmakers can build capacity, develop relationships with audiences, their own audiences first. If you look at the British film industry or the Australian industry, these very successful industries, they developed a domestic industry first. They developed a relationship with their local audiences. Their governments committed to production for their local audiences. And that way they were able to build capacity, build professionalism, and build their own exportability of their content, but that's not happening in our region, because we don't have those drivers on the ground, that commitment. In Dominican Republic, I think that I'm not sure, but I think the issues are language, because the Spanish market probably has its own, I don't know, you tell me. It seems to me that it can't penetrate the English-speaking market because of the language. And then within the Spanish-speaking market, it seems to me, I don't know, that those markets are very local. Like the Spanish market is one thing. So I don't see a lot of crossover happening between, different Spanish markets, but you are in a better position to tell me. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what are the issues that affect the exportability. I think the penetration of Spanish language content into the English language is a huge barrier for content, you know, generally. But I don't
Yeah,
know. What do you think?
From time to time, there are
Breakthroughs.
Spanish that do the crossover and become successful from film from Mexico, Spain, or Chile, or some other countries.
So is it more the exception than the rule? You know, how do we build an industry that it happens regularly? Do you know what I mean? Not just once in a while, you know?
The pandemic has changed a lot. Everything.
Everything, yeah.
But what are those changes? Of course, there are higher demand. Everybody turned to Netflix, the HBOs, and all those streaming platforms, and consume films or content in other ways. What are the changes that you see are happening in the industries, and where our creators should focus on?
I don't know, because it's very much an interim period. Obviously, everybody's had to go online. Distribution has gone online, but I don't think that the models have solidified yet in terms of what is going to be the future. I think everybody is still yearning for the cinema, to be honest. I think people are still yearning for the live experience. So even though everything is online, you know, it's not really, at the moment, it's not really sustainable, because people are not buying in a lot. You know, they're not enough people are buying tickets online to sustain online businesses. That's my perception from where I sit. I think once things open up again, we'll see how much of the business is going to stay online, what that is going to morph into in terms of a sustainable commercial enterprise, and how much of it is going to go back to the live experience. I think it's going to be more split, but at the moment, it's sort of this, everybody feels like they're in limbo. We don't know which way to go, you know?
Reading your website, in one of the places that talk about, you recommend some of the creators to do more series than films, than feature films. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, quite simply, you know, feature film, again, is not really sustainable. It's a little bit easier in a way to get feature films off the ground, because all you really need to, not all you really need to do a feature film, but you just need money, you make it, and then it's finished. But with series, you need a commitment from a broadcaster. And so that can be difficult. You need a platform. But if you can get a series off the ground, if you can get a, you know, broadcast commitment, then a series is like having a franchise. You know, it's basically a concept that repeats, that has repeater potential, that can you know, be continued into the future, and you know, can build stars, it can build it builds audiences over time, you know, and so has the potential to be monetized, you know. That's the concept of series. In our region, it's a little bit more difficult because our broadcasters don't, you know, they don't fund us. So but I still think that the idea of series, that's where the money can start to come in. That's where you can begin to build a career, you know.
I know that you have had films showcased in your film festival, like Leticia Tonos and others. How can filmmakers that are interested in participating either the festival or in placing in your streaming site, get in contact with you?
Well, the festival, we have a call for proposals every year. We have 3 festivals every year. One is our Windrush Festival in the UK, Caribbean Tales, and Cinefam, which supports women of color specifically. And we have a call for proposals on the websites. So if you Google Caribbean Tales Festivals.com, all that information will come up. In terms of the incubator program, the incubator takes place once a year, which is in September, and we're recruiting now. It is a global festival, especially now. So we are looking to build, especially co-productions. between, for example, this year we're focusing on England and Canada. But in other years, we've done South Africa, Canada co-productions. We've done co-productions between France and Canada. So ways of developing content that can cross boundaries is a very great interest to us. In terms of distribution, we are always looking for great content to distribute to the broadcast market, and we do have a theatrical stream where we release films into the cinemas here in Canada. And as well, and in terms of our VOD platform, we are beginning to develop original content for our VOD platform, and so we're looking for, you know, all kinds of content, talk shows, discussion series, you know, scripted, non-scripted, long-running content, as well as short content for our VOD.
The time is almost over. I just wanted to, because you live in a country, I mean, Canada, UK, those are countries where the diasporas are very strong, the Caribbean diaspora, the US. Do you think the region taps enough on the potentials on what is happening in the diaspora?
I think that there is a lot of movement, but maybe there could be more. You know, I think that, I think that there are a lot of citizens of the Caribbean who are dual citizens. And so they move, there's a lot of movement between the Caribbean and, I mean, it's known, we all know we have relatives in the States, relatives in Canada, relatives in Europe. Everybody has relatives all over the world. But I think that constant movement between the diaspora and the region is not one that is fully acknowledged, or even, as you say, taken advantage of. You know, the ideal would be to build more partnerships for more of us who live in the diaspora to be able to build partnerships in the region. But often that's not easy. You know, it's very difficult because of the lack of co-production agreements, because again, the governments don't really acknowledge that intrinsic relationship and very, I think, potentially lucrative relationship between the diaspora. And we in the diaspora are really committed to the Caribbean region, you know. So we will always do whatever we can, and we love to work in the Caribbean.
Well, Francis and Solomon, thank you very much for your presence here, and I hope more Dominican artists could tap into all those wonderful resources that you have created.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you.